Hey everybody, welcome to another Fish Tech video. I had a very interesting discussion with somebody recently. They bought one of my charts and the customer said, can you explain the difference between a point, a primary point, a main point, a secondary point, and a subtle point? And I said, the primary and the secondary and the subtle, yes, I can. But you know what? I think it'll be a good idea to do a video on that. So let me do a video and I'll send you the link from YouTube. So guys, this is the video that is actually answering the question of one of my customers. And maybe that will give you guys an idea. If there is a question about the charts, by all means, WhatsApp me, phone me, whatever. If I think it's an interesting topic, let's do a video on it, and then everybody gets to benefit from it. So let's get right into it. We obviously in South Africa. What I've decided to do here is dry mouth. I'm looking at Inanda Dam, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. That's the chart that I've got in here. I'm going to start with start with Inanda HD maybe. Pop that in there. There we go. No, that's not going to be a good one. Let's just use a standard satellite with some contours on it. There we go. Keep it simple, John. Right. Inanda is a very interesting dam. Unfortunately, it's got a lot of hyacinth at the moment due to neglect. But we've got a lot of that here in South Africa. Guys, if you look at this, just one glimpse where you see all these little coves, what does that tell you? There's a lot of points on Inanda Dam. A lot. Anything that breaks away from the main body of the lake or the dam or whatever, or reservoir, whatever you want to call it, that's a point. A secondary point is something that goes from shallow to deep, protrudes inside a bay or a cove or a whatnot. So if this is your main body of water here, this is your main, let's call it the river if you want to speak, but let's call it a river. That is a cove or a bay or an inlet or whatever you can, that'll apply anywhere in the world. And this here, that is a primary point. That would be considered as a primary point. This will also be considered as a point. But if you were looking for points, you generally looking for something, I'm going to, inverted commas, something sharpish, okay? So this I would consider as a primary good example of a point. And there's plenty and they're easy to find. So what is a secondary point? Let's go into, in this case, this is Grants Bay. And that there is a secondary point. Very easy to find, not so subtle. It's quite a prominent point. The reason why there's a prominent point here in Grants Bay is you've actually got two inlets. You've got two little river inlets here. So if I go to chart options and I go to fill, you can see there's one there. There's a little inlet there, a little creek or a runoff or whatever you want to call it. And there's another one there. And in between those two, you've got this secondary point. And that is what I call a secondary point. If someone said to me, yes, but okay, that's easy enough. There's your primary point. There's your secondary point. It's something that happens inside that cove or bay or whatever it is. And what is a subtle point? This would be a subtle point. You see where you've got your secondary, and then you've got a little point smaller inside of that. So that's a point in a point in a point, if that sort of makes sense. Okay. Would that be a good spot to fish? Of course, that would be a good spot to fish. If you look at, in our case here, I think we might have an aerial HD for this here. Yes, we do. Okay. Oh man, this is just such a good example. If you zoom right in there, okay, that's what happens to a satellite chart. In other parts of the world, I've seen some really great satellite charts, some really high definition. In fact, I managed to find one for Inanda, which is very, very rare. Let's have a look at it. It's called Inanda HD. Oh, it wasn't low enough. Such a pity. But look at the difference in quality. Sorry, I'm deviating off the points thing, but it's still there. There's our subtle point that we're talking about. But look at the difference in resolution between satellite, Inanda HD, and then aerial HD. Now guys, aerial HD, if you zoom in on that, is what I've captured with the drone. Still not bad. In fact, I love this Inanda HD, the satellite. The reason what makes this satellite image on Inanda so good is the time of the year that it was taken. It was clearly winter because of the angle of the shadow. Remember, north is up, south is down. We've got shadows down. What does that tell you? The sun has moved over. It's winter. And this has given us some really nice shadows. You'd also have the same effect in early morning when you've got the sunrise and the sunset, but then those shadows would come primarily from the left or the right. But I just like winter satellite imagery because it goes either in the northern hemisphere south to north and in the southern hemisphere north to south. Did I say that right? I'll have to check. Anyway, so there you have it. But then you get into the water here. Let's change to my aerial HD. Mine obviously goes out. I took this when it was really low. And guys, just look at that. I mean, by comparison, it's just a huge difference in resolution. Another nice thing that you get with your FishTech chart while we're talking about these, okay, this, I'm not going to call this a subtle point, because this is quite a serious secondary point, if you know what I mean. This isn't that subtle. This is a jump out and bite you subtle point, air quoting again. Where's our elevation? Elevation, there it is. You see what you get with your elevation? You can see which are the taller rocks and which are the smaller rocks, the biggest rocks, because remember, this is a form of LiDAR, light distance ranging, and it's a shaded relief, and it really makes it easy to understand what's bigger, taller, smaller, where the channel is exactly. Okay, in this case, it's not rocket science. But let's put it on that rock. Excuse me, there. Go to aerial HD. You can see in this particular area, if you want to fish the tallest rock in this area, that's the rock right there. That boy there. But if you look at all these other rocks, it's nearly impossible to see. But if you use your light distance ranging, look for the one that's got the biggest shadow on it. Bang, there it is there. Nice. Okay. What else do we have for this area? Let's look at our mosaic. Okay. Once again, this just showcases what a FishTech chart is all about. When you go into the water, there's no satellite imagery. You've run out of sap. That was the lowest. In fact, that's very, very low. I think that's around about as low as Inanda ever got, around 24, 25 feet down. What's that, about 8 meters, somewhere around there. That's where everything ends. Okay, that's the end of the honeymoon, as it were. I like to use that phrase, as you guys know. Whereas when you click on mosaic, it's where the sonar kicks in. What's happening further than what you can see on historic satellite imagery or any other form of thing? is side scan mosaics. I call it Ultra HF, where we use an ultra high frequency side scan, and it just gives fishermen an edge, a massive, massive edge. But anyway, back to the points. I want to show you something else. Let's talk about a real subtle point. Has Grants Bay been good to me in the past? Yes, it has. I've caught some really fun fish in there. I've never caught a monster, a really big fish inside Grants Bay, but there's definitely some fun fishing to be had in that type of environment. But I want to take you to a spot that has produced some big fish. Now, once again, here is our primary point. It's a gentle primary point. It's not a sharp primary point. There is a sharper primary point, as you can see there, on the top right hand side of the screen, and inside here we have a little secondary point. It's not much of a secondary point. It's never been that great to me, but I'm going to step right outside of this bay, and I want to talk about super subtle points. I want to call them points because they aren't just humps. It's where the shoreline isn't straight. It means it goes out slightly. And that is this area here. This area here, I have caught a lot of good fish. I've never caught anything over 4 kgs here, never. But I've caught a lot of fish between 2 kilos and 3 kilos in this particular area. Before the drought, before 2016, my logbook was full of this area. And to be honest with you, I didn't quite understand why. Why was I getting these great fish here? So what I'm going to do is, this is a photograph that I took with my drone. This was in October, I think it was October 2016. It was a little bit of an overcast day. I like flying the drone on overcast days. You get a really nice sort of contrast. You don't get over contrasting with the brightness. And when I got home and I looked at this photograph, I saw these dark spots. Can you see these dark spots here? Like these dark clay spots. And I thought, let me go and check my waypoints. Let me go and check if these are the spots where I've caught these fish. And lo and behold, this is it. This was the ticket. This is where these fish were. They were sitting on these hard clay, super subtle little points. When the dam was full, when these points were really producing, they were in about 24, above 20 feet. And this is where baits like, of course, the DD22 came in. My shallower running DD22s. There was no need to put any WD-40 on it to make it slick and make it dive deeper, because it was you wanted your DD22s that don't go quite that deep to target these areas, and I'd run it just off the bottom. And when I'd come over these humps, I remember seeing the rod or feeling the rod. I don't like to hold the rod when I'm trolling. I prefer it in a rod holder. You can tell a hell of a lot more. You can especially tell when a fish is following it. That's a video for a whole different day. But you'd see the rod tap, tap, it's hitting the bottom, and pretty soon after that, you would get the strike. And that was on these type of points. And this was just incredible. So I started to deep dive into this. Why is this so good? So let's go to our Aerial HD. And there it is there. Can you see them? These were the spots that were producing the fish. It was these things, these hard clay little humps. Very often now, these humps and what have you, with the amount of hyacinth we've got in Inanda at the moment, if the wind comes from the sort of northwest, northerly area, this area does typically get a lot of hyacinth. But guys, if you're going to go in here and you're going to go punch for bass, I would definitely spend a little bit more time when you get to this area. Because remember, the fish know exactly what is underneath. You don't. If you don't have a fish tech chart, you've got no idea. Sure, you've got live, you've got your 360, but when there's a lot of hyacinth on the surface and that, it does interfere with you somewhat. The live is a lot better. So the guys with the live units, I would definitely sneak up to these points and do a little scan, even if there's hyacinth there, see what is hanging around these little points here. But you've got another really nice tool on your fish tech charts. You've got these photographs. Okay, this one was taken from the water, not from the sky, but that will just give you a perspective of what those clay humps looked like when the dam was down at about 24 feet in 2016. So that is some great information there. And that is something that you can apply all over the dam. You see, there's another one. Okay, that's got something special on it. Can you see? It's got a little stump on it. Okay, that just adds a whole new flavor of yummy to the thing. Let's see if its mate has got a nice picture. It's just a slightly different angle of the same thing, but obviously, but there's something else. There's something else that you can use. It's your sediment. Now guys, now I'm really revealing something. So many people don't even look at their sediments, especially on Inanda. It is a huge mistake. It's a huge error. You see this here? This is a little runoff. From the rains, it's obviously created like a little groove running down into the main body of the dam. And then here you've got a little footpath. Tuk, 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 tuk. Those are little footpaths. So if you put your cursor on that and go back to your aerial HD, find the closest hump, clay hump to that, which would be there. This spot in my logbook has about 8 waypoints on it. It is phenomenal. It's just, I know we've looked at this picture, but you can see what makes it stand out. It's that stump. It's that old stump on the clay on a super subtle point. And that, let me just see how it looks with elevation. Nah, not so good. Sometimes LiDAR gets a little bit confused around water, so that is not a good indication. No, you see on that high definition satellite, it just wasn't low enough, except nothing there. But guys, remember, I was on Inanda and Midmar and Alberts when it was almost at its lowest, and I got a lot of really, truly fantastic information there. So yeah, guys, pay close attention to these very subtle things, even in the case where, like with Inanda, where you've got a lot of hyacinth. What's underneath the hyacinth? Use your fish tech charts. You might just find that super fish that you are looking for. So guys, that's it for points, secondary points, and subtle points, and super subtle points. Thanks for watching the video. Till next time. Cheers, guys.